We've seen some mammoth titles land in the last few decades, with huge hits like Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, and the Pokemon series all selling by the tens of millions. However, not all big selling games are massive hits in terms of playability and long-term focus for the player. And there's been a fair share of titles released which might have sold well, but ultimately fell flat as an actual piece of gaming quality. I'm Jess from What Culture, and here are 10 video game failures that still made millions. Number 10. NBA 2K18. While the 2K franchise has consistently delivered the best basketball experience around for fans of the game, 2018's effort had so much wrong with it. A lack of longevity in certain modes ensured that boredom soon set in, while certain animations within the game caused serious frustration for online players. The biggest problem in the game, however, was the complete lack of defense on offer due to the blow-by animation within the gameplay, which essentially meant you could sprint past defenders at will to get to the basket. Still, the game moved a massive amount of units worldwide as 2K strengthened its grip on the monopoly of the basketball gaming world ahead of EA's NBA Live series. 2K can't quite seem to get it consistently right when it comes to their basketball offerings, but it's safe to say it's still a juggernaut in the genre. Number 9. Fallout 76. It's rare that we see Bethesda get it wrong with a big game release, but they did just that when they released Fallout 76 back in 2018. Coming off the back of the massive success of Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, there was a huge expectation around the release of 76, given it was going to expand into the online world, which so many games had enjoyed huge success from. Unfortunately for fans of the series, Fallout 76 failed across a wide number of gameplay aspects. A lack of non-playable characters within the game was cited in numerous reviews as a big issue, while fans bemoaned the poor gameplay and in-game mechanics on offer. Despite its failure to live up to the previous titles in the series, Fallout 76 still did well in terms of sales, and managed to shift well in excess of 1 million copies. Plus it has NPCs now, so that's nice. Number 8. Enter the Matrix. There aren't too many games out there which come directly from successful movie franchises and prove to be a massive success in the gaming world. Enter the Matrix is another example of this failure. Released way back in 2003 across various platforms, fans of the hugely successful film series were looking forward to getting their hands on the likes of Neo and Morpheus. Unfortunately for gamers, Neo wasn't actually a playable character in the original release, while the whole gaming experience was clunky and difficult to get to grips with. Enter the Matrix was nothing more than a rushed job in order to cash in on the popularity of the films. It showed in the overall gameplay experience for players, but that didn't stop sales flooding in. The game sold well over 4 million units to prove to developers that maybe they did make the right call in terms of monetary reward from the game. Number 7. South Park. South Park not only sits on this list, but would sit on a lot of people's lists of worst games they've ever played. And just to be clear, we're talking about the original here. Despite it being a TV sensation, the game struggled to transcend into the console world and was another example of something being rushed out to simply satisfy the masses. It was bizarrely made as a first-person shooter, but proved a spectacular failure of a game across all the systems it was released on. The only plus within the game was that you could at least play as all the main characters within the show, but that was probably as good as it got. Still, given the popularity of South Park at the time, it managed to sell plenty of copies and rake in millions of dollars for developers. Despite decent sales figures, the less said about the game the better. Number 6. Wii Play. Coming off the back of the hugely successful Nintendo Wii and the equally successful Wii Sports Resort, Wii Play was expected to add further dimensions and game choices to Nintendo's revolutionary console. It offered a selection of minigames which were meant to entice Wii players into further delving into the console's unique gaming style, but it ultimately proved a bit of a disaster to play. The games were tiresome and quickly ensured players were bored within hours of trying out things like table tennis, laser hockey, and fishing. The angling game was particularly depressing. However, much like the Wii in general, Wii Play was a huge commercial success and brought in millions of dollars for Nintendo. It sold copies by the millions and comfortably broke the 20 million barrier. Indeed, Wikipedia even ranks it on its highest selling video games of all time list. Number 5. Star Wars Battlefront. 2015 saw the much anticipated release of the latest Star Wars game in the Battlefront series. Touted as having the impressive Frostbite engine for the game to run on, and with trailers showing impressive graphics, it was one of the most hyped games of the year. While there were some good things in the game and certain aspects are pleasing to the eye to avid Star Wars fans, it didn't really capture the attention of non-Star Wars fans. It struggled with a lack of single-player campaign mode, while compared to market leaders like Call of Duty, the feel of the first-person shooter aspects of the game seemed slow and clunky. Battlefront still managed to hit targets and managed well in excess of 10 million sales, essentially rendering the game a huge commercial success. Still, given the expectation on the game and giant fan base it had to target, it fell short on so many levels. Number 4. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. So much was expected of the game when it was previewed initially, while the beta for the game also showed plenty of promise as gamers were given a glimpse of the open world gameplay that was going to be on offer. Now, it's not the worst game of all time by any means. Personally, I'm kind of a fan, but clunky controls, especially when controlling vehicles, and a questionable storyline ensured the game wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Ubisoft did continue to release downloadable content, even continuing this into 2019. However, the game in general fell well short of expectations, thanks to the repetitive nature of the in-game missions. It did still sell plenty of copies though, raking in millions once again as sales eclipsed the 10 million mark with considerable ease. It's best not to mention the controversy the game caused with its depiction of Bolivia though. 3. iToy Play. Proving that people will lap up something just because it's new and looks like being a game changer, iToy Play proved to be an utter disaster of a game. It was virtually impossible to navigate and the actual game itself was extremely limited. The premise of the game and the new technology was exciting and had potential, but the 12 games on offer within the title didn't offer enough in terms of playability and longevity to ensure it was well liked by gamers. Despite the poor gameplay experience, iToy Play was the first to make use of the video camera facility of the PlayStation 2, and that subsequently led to massive sales for Sony. It should be credited in a way for placing a path for the likes of the Wii U in the future, but given the expectation and hype surrounding the game, it essentially flopped in every other way but sales figures. Number 2. Anthem. Coming from BioWare, there were a lot of expectations for Anthem, as it promised to be a mix of a massive open-world epic where you could roam freely in a third-person shooter. Publisher Electronic Arts expected it would be one of their standout titles of the year. Sadly for them, Anthem's gameplay leaves a lot to be desired, while a repetitive storyline and at times a clumsy feel to the whole game left players feeling somewhat disappointed. For all its nice-looking graphics and nice touches when it comes to being involved in battles within the game, Anthem ultimately comes up well short in what we've come to expect from BioWare. Regardless of its poor overall feel, Anthem has still raked in the coin, with one report claiming the game had even broken the 100 million mark within the first few months following its release. Number 1. 50 Cent, Bulletproof. Capping this list off and fitting with the theme of cashing in while the fire is hot, 50 Cent Bulletproof was a truly woeful game. Despite having an excellent soundtrack, if rap music is your thing, the entire mechanics of the game seem broken from day one, leading to some utterly terrible gameplay features. 50 Cent was massive at the time of release in 2005, and this was a clear case of developers making some money while Mr. Curtis Jackson was at his peak. Bulletproof had countless flaws within the actual game, and despite telling a story which wasn't the worst we've seen in the gaming world, it proved a waste of time to try and play for most people. Despite being a poor game on the whole, the game paid off financially as it sold well in excess of 1 million copies to ultimately bring in huge revenue streams. And that's our list. Do let me know down in that comment box if you can think of any other video game failures that still made a stack of change. As always, I've been Jess from What Culture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you like, you can come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDonald, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great content.